I decided to go to a basketball camp. LeBron James was there. I didn't know who he was. And then when I was there, the coaches were like, you're so good. You need to come develop your game in the States. So I go back to Lebanon. I get online. I Google a family. And I'm like, Mom, I have a host family. I'm going to be a foreign exchange student. Yes, I'm moving to Midland, Texas, and I'm going to go play basketball.
Welcome to Beyond the Game, where mental wellness competes. I'm your host, Philip Reynolds, licensed clinical social worker, LCSW. I spent over 2 decades working in mental and behavioral health, sitting with families, athletes, and young people in some of the hardest moments of their lives. Over time, one pattern became impossible to ignore. The athletes who looked the strongest on the outside were often carrying the heaviest pressure on the inside. I kept meeting high performers who knew how to train their bodies, knew how to push through pain, knew how to fight for a starting spot or a scholarship, but no one had ever taught them how to process loss, identity shifts, injury, burnout, or the silence that comes when their playing careers end. That gap is what led me to create Copious Life Sports Initiative, or CLSI. Our mission is to close what we call the resilience gap. That is the space between pushing through and breaking down, where too many athletes get stranded. This podcast exists because the conversation around athlete mental health needs more than headlines. It needs stories, real stories from athletes who lived it, coaches who saw it, parents who felt it, journalists who covered it, professionals working to change the system. Because athletes are not just performers, they're people. Here, we talk about the pressure behind the performance, the identity behind the jersey, the silence behind the success. My hope is that every episode helps athletes feel less alone, helps families feel more equipped, helps coaches and leaders rethink what it really means to support the whole athlete. This is Beyond the Game, and I'm really glad you're here. Welcome to Beyond the Game, where mental wellness competes. We are excited to have with us today Aida Bakhos. She brings a global and deeply layered perspective to Beyond the Game, shaped by her journey as a professional athlete, military veteran, and leader, both on and off the court. Born in Beirut, Aida's basketball journey has taken her across the continent, from competing at the Division I level at Lamar University to representing Lebanon on the international stage. She has competed professionally in Lebanon and Europe, winning multiple league and cup championships while establishing herself as a high-level competitor and leader. But her story extends far beyond basketball. In the middle of her athletic career, Aida stepped away from the game to serve in the United States Army for 8 years. A decision that reflects a level of discipline, resilience, and identity that goes far beyond sport. That combination of experiences, elite athletics, military service, and global competition, gives her a rare perspective on pressure, purpose, and what it truly means to navigate identity and high-performance environments. Today, Aida continues to compete, coach, and build her platform as both an athlete and lifestyle influencer, using her voice to connect with growing audiences and share the realities of performance, discipline, and life beyond the game. This conversation goes beyond basketball. It's about resilience, reinvention, and what it looks like to carry multiple identities, athlete, soldier, leader, and still continue to evolve. Welcome to the podcast, Aida. How are you?
Good. Thank you for having me. I'm so excited.
I'm super excited. I know we connected on social media, and I reached out to you and you were like, hey, this is the conversation I want to have. I want to be a part of this. So super excited to have you join this conversation. And so kind of let's jump into it. Let's start with where you start. Where'd you grow up?
I grew up in Lebanon, Beirut, Lebanon. Basketball is really big there, but of course it's not as big as Europe or the United States because it's a smaller country. We don't have everything we need to develop our games. So at a young age, I decided to go to a basketball camp, and it was actually Michael Jordan's basketball camp. And when I was there, I got the chance to play against the best players in the league or in college or high school that were there. LeBron James was there. I didn't know who he was. And then when I was there, the coaches were like, you're so good. You need to come develop your game in the States. So I go back to Lebanon. I get online. I was like 15 or 14. I think I was like 14. And I'm like, I'm going to the States. So I go online, I Google a family, and I'm like, Mom, I have a host family. I'm going to be a foreign exchange student. Yes, I'm moving to Midland, Texas, and I'm going to go play basketball. And my parents were very supportive. So this is what helped me start my journey. My parents were very supportive. People think like Middle Eastern people are more closed-minded, but actually they're not. And they saw my potential, and they made a couple of phone calls, and then I was on my way to Midland, Texas. I played basketball in high school, got first team all district, won district. Then I got a scholarship to attend Lamar University, which is crazy because I only played varsity 1 year. I didn't have that chance to get like better or more scholarships just because of the rules. And I forgot, it was like NIL in high school or something. I forgot.
And it would have been NIL then, I think.
Then,
Yeah,
yes.
whatever the regulations were, kind of you didn't have more playing time.
True. So I had to sit out for like almost a year and a half. So I barely played a year. And actually, the story how I got my scholarship is really interesting. I was with my AAU team that's from Lubbock, and we lost in the Final Four. And my teammates were in the pool swimming, and I was playing street ball at 1 a.m. with a bunch of guys. And Coach Leonard Drake, that recruited me, was watching me play street ball the whole time, and that's how I got recruited.
Well, let's go back. Let's go back to Lebanon. You went to a basketball camp. And so how old were you when you started playing basketball?
I actually started at not a young age. I was like 13 or 14. I used to play soccer my whole life. But back then in Lebanon, soccer didn't exist for women. So my parents were like, you have to switch sports. Okay. And I was like, let me try basketball. So nobody helped me develop my game or my skills. I was just simply athletic, and I just loved the game. It wasn't until I moved here at like 15, 16, that's when I actually started working on my game.
Okay, so just a natural athlete. And so what was that transition like going from Lebanon, growing up there to the age of 13? And now you're not just in kind of the US, you're in Texas, which is a big sports community and everything else. So how was that transition for you? What kind of challenges did you face?
Honestly, it wasn't that hard because I knew I was focused on basketball and I wanted to play basketball. So my goal was to make it to the league, to the WNBA. The culture difference, it wasn't bad. Everybody, I was lucky I was able to come to Midland, Texas, where people were actually very nice. Right. It's like very small, very safe. And I was lucky because first I had a different host family. Things didn't work out. So my best friend from high school and her family, the Hillmans, they took me in. They're like, okay, you're not happy. You're going to come move with us. And then they were there for me the whole time of me transitioning from being like coming from a different country to the States. But my focus was just to play basketball, get better, and help people that are trying to follow my footsteps do the same thing, honestly. And I'm back in Midland, Texas now. It's like a full circle.
So it really was the game of basketball that was kind of your culture that you joined from Lebanon and came here, and that same game kind of translated and kind of helped you adapt and get connected and grow up here. And then you transitioned to college. And so even in the States, for folks that grew up playing basketball, that's a jump going from high school basketball to college basketball. So what was that transition like for you?
Honestly, now that I think of it, I wish I had like somebody to mentor me through it. Even like when I joined the military, I had no idea what I was doing. And I have like this mentor that understood that transitioning from here to here. Unfortunately, in my senior year in high school, we had a coach that had to let go because of like sexual assault stuff with some players. So it was a very difficult senior year for me and my teammates. So I didn't have like the knowledge or anything. I was just like, my host family took me to college, to Lamar University, and they're like, checked it out. They're like, okay, good. But I didn't have somebody that took me under their wing, you know, to teach me like the process or even help me sign up for my classes or make that transitioning easy for me. Now that I think of it, that's just like, I think if I had this guidance, I would be somewhere else than I am now, honestly. Like even making decisions after college to play in Europe or the teams to go to, So this is my main target now that I lived through it.
Right.
I want to help the younger generation. Now I'm coaching at Midland Christian, sixth and seventh grade and high school. So I want to help them take the right moves and grow. And so they're aware what they're going to face from middle school to high school to college, and then college to pro, because I didn't have any help. Like, after all, basketball for school, yes, you're getting your degree, but it's still for them, it's kind of business if you think of it.
No, absolutely. And I mean, now even more so with NIL, it's even more of a business, right?
Yes.
And so I couldn't imagine, you being a kid at that age of NIL was around, and then they're talking all this money and opportunity and everything else, and navigating all of that on your own. It's a big system, but it's great that you had that family that was a support that at the very least could check out the college and say, okay, this is a pretty good space and a good fit for you. How was it academically for you, kind of high school and then transitioning into college, staying on top of things academically?
The thing is, like, my English wasn't that good, but I understood English. I spoke it. I had, I didn't have issues with it, but if I go back, I would choose definitely a different major. Like, I was just really focused in basketball. I didn't know. Nobody told me, like, when you graduate, there's something outside of basketball. Like, when you're done playing basketball, there's a career. Like, I wasn't, because I left home at a very young age, at like 15, 16. So I didn't have somebody to mentor me and tell me 1 year, like, sometimes basketball is going to stop, so you have to rely on your degree or whatever. But I had to figure everything out on my own. Until now, I'm trying to figure it out on my own, and I think that's been like the best part of me growing as a person and being able to give back. I wouldn't take anything back that I went through. I would do it, I think, the same thing over and over again.
No, because we talk about the resilience gap, that space between push through and breakdown. And you were kind of in that space because you didn't know how to navigate it and didn't have a lot of supports to navigate it. So, what were the hard days like? Were there days where you were like, yo, is this really what I want to be doing? What did you do? How did you navigate those challenging days, those challenging moments?
Honestly, for me, basketball was my outlet. Like, I knew I came here for a reason, and going back to Lebanon was not an option. I grew up in war. Lebanon was like occupied until now. Like, we have to go through some stuff. So for me, like, I came to the United States to make my dream come true. This is what they say. Like, the States is a place to come to make your dreams come true. So I went through a lot growing up in Lebanon. So for me, this was just another part of going through something that I knew basketball was my outlet. And every time I'm sad or mad, I would hit the gym, I would go for a run, and I would just let loose, honestly.
Yeah. And so you spent some time in the military. So help me kind of place your career. So you left Lamar after kind of graduating from there, and I know that you played for Lebanon, the national team in Lebanon. And so where did your military service fall in that?
So I joined the military in 2011 till 2019. I just felt like the United States gave so much for me, and I felt like I needed to give back. And it's something that I have like a vision board.
Yeah.
One of them was to join the military, but I never really thought the United States. But because I grew up here and I connected with the culture, I felt like I belonged. So I decided to join the military. And once I got in, I was in like 2 years in, and then I started missing basketball. So I was like, I have to figure something out. I gotta do both things at the same time. I was stationed in New York, so flying from New York to Lebanon was easy, or to Europe. So my unit was very good to me, nice to me. They allowed me to fly once a month, or like fly play in Europe and then come back the same month and do all the days I missed. So I had to do both of them at the same time for literally like 6 years.
Oh, wow.
It was a lot of work. Like, I would arrive a day before a game, I would play for like a week, then I would fly back to New York, do a week, and then and I had to pay for my flights because
Oh,
that
wow.
is not.
So first and foremost, thank you for your service and just kind of even that idea that this country gave so much to you and you wanted to give back. But that story is a unique one, right? You're not going to hear that many athletes saying, yes, I was in the military and I had to travel to go play games and try to stay on top of that. And so that sounds like a really challenging, arduous time that in all honesty, a lot of athletes wouldn't have had the mental fortitude to be able to navigate that. And so, how did you stay strong? How did you stay locked in? How did you stay focused on being able to accomplish? And what was that weight like to carry a lot of that? That's a lot.
Like people ask me that a lot, but me being an athlete, like helped me in the military. I felt like I was mentally and physically tough than a lot of people that were in the military that joined at the same time with me. And then once I joined the military, I was playing basketball. I felt like the military toughness you had to be physically tough, mentally tough, help me on the court. Like I would be the one taking the last shot. I would do so good under pressure while other players would not, but like they both gelled in together. But I was prepared for the military physically and mentally because I was an athlete. And then when I was an athlete, the military background helped me excel as an athlete. So I was very mentally tough and I was in the best shape you could ever think of.
I couldn't imagine. And so it's that discipline that carried through, right? The way that you had to
True.
be disciplined and structured. And it sounds like you brought some of that back to your game when you played. And I know that you've been a leader, right? You've not just been on the team, you've been a leader on the team, and that some of that played a role in how you show up. And so you've navigated being able to push through tough moments. But when I can't push through, when it's hard, were there moments where you broke down and kind of struggled? What were those moments like for you?
I would pray, honestly. I grew up as a Christian, so we always believed in God. We always believed when things get bad, you lean to Jesus, to God. So those were the moments I would actually pray. I would write, I would read. I would never pick up the phone though and call my parents overseas and tell them I'm sad or I'm going through something. Even like in high school, what we had to go through as a team, they never found out about it because I didn't want them to worry. They're like in Lebanon. And back then we didn't have we weren't rich, so they couldn't just get on the plane and come check on me. So I would lean on God most of the time. And I was I also had my host family here that I would call and they would be there for me.
And I'm sure, kind of being a player on a team, there was that culture in the locker room with your team because they would know everything that's going on. And then when you got back stateside, you had your unit, which knew what's going on. So I'm sure you understand the value of a team and the way that a team can support and encourage and help you. And so, how did those teams care for you as you were carrying this load that you were dealing with?
I had to learn how to separate both. Sometimes I would wake up, I'm confused. Am I in New York? Am I in Lebanon? Am I in Europe? I would be confused, but I had to learn how to separate basketball from the military just so I can focus. Because sometimes I am playing, but at the same time, my unit is calling me, you have to do this, you have to do this, and vice versa. So I had to keep a lot to myself and I had to learn to be strong at a young age and to deal with things on my own.
Right.
And people might think that's negative because you keep everything in, but I learned how to turn it into something positive sometimes.
Yeah. And so, what did self-care look like for you? You had limited time, you were grinding, doing challenging things, military and basketball. So, how did you take care of yourself in those spaces? How did you let your hair down?
Honestly, I didn't much, but I am now. Now, every time I get the chance to travel, I travel. This is what makes me happy. Before I would spend my money on sneakers. I'm a huge sneaker collector. So this is what used to make me happy, or my animals or something like that. But now that I learned how to take care of myself by traveling. So I learned to travel every other month just to clear my mind. Even when I was playing, anytime I had the weekend off, they knew I had to leave. I would go anywhere to Dubai, anywhere, wherever I'm playing, anywhere close to Lebanon or Europe, or else I couldn't function. And the biggest issue I had with me playing basketball overseas was needing a challenge. Because once you have done it for so long and you feel like the game's starting to get easier for you, you're more experienced, you're older, you play smarter instead of harder. So I started getting bored. And I got lucky with a coach a couple of years ago that challenged me. And he knew I would get bored in practice. Come on, I need a new challenge. So he made sure he would sign the best players to compete against me in practice. And then that showed like that changed me completely. But that's like I think the biggest challenge I faced recently in basketball was I needed a challenge just because I understood the game so much, and he understood that I needed to leave. He would give me like every other weekend off just to breathe because I was doing so much at one time.
And so I guess you can look back now on that time and even say, man, it really helped build and shape me, but it would have been nice to have supports. And not every athlete is dealing with that kind of grind. I don't know if there are many athletes that are dealing with that balance. And so there's this desire as an athlete to look strong and be strong and appear strong, even when things might not be feeling so strong on the inside. So what would you say to athletes now that are dealing with a lot? And maybe it's just the grind of going to practice, going to school, getting their academics done, training afterwards, trying to eat right. Like it can be a lot of weight for an athlete to carry. What would you say, and how would you encourage them to really find opportunities to take care of themselves?
Honestly, it's something they're going to have to deal with for the rest of their lives. Like even after they retire, or because they're supposed to be role models, and we all have a definition of what a role model should be, which is very unfair, I think. All I say is stay locked in, don't give up easily, believe in yourself, keep pushing because it's not going to be an easy journey at
Right.
all. Think about how lucky you are that you are able to do what you want to do, because some people might have the same skills but they don't have the opportunities to do what you want to do. And basketball goes by, any sports goes by so quick, like one day you're 20 and the next day you're 40. And so take advantage of it. It's going to be ups and downs, but that's what makes the game interesting and so much fun.
Good. One of the most important things that we like to encourage athletes to do, especially young athletes, is develop and cultivate an identity outside of sports, right? Who are you beyond sports? And in some sense, you had that naturally built in, right? Because you had your sport and you were playing basketball, but you were also serving the country that you were living in through military service. And so for those that are listening, I know that sounds like you've kind of tapped more into that as you've kind of winded down playing. Who are you beyond sports, and why are those parts of yourself just as important?
You know, you still discover yourself every day. Till now, I'm still trying to discover what I love to do after basketball. And I have like three other jobs now just because I've done basketball my whole life. So I'm still trying to discover what I like other than basketball because, again, nobody prepared you for life after basketball. It's kind of depressing because it's like you have to leave everything you knew and start over again. But my advice is even when you're playing, think of the future, think of a plan, think of things you enjoy. Like with me, I enjoy fashion, I enjoy traveling, I enjoy a lot of things. So I try to implement that in my daily life. And I try, for example, that job I got now, it was just because of my Instagram. Communication director in Midland Athletic, and it's a huge complex that we are building for athletes to help them develop their game so they can go pro and have something to do in Midland. And just make sure you discover what you like other than the sport that you play because you're more than just an athlete.
No, and it sounds like you've cultivated and shown the different sides of yourself, including the basketball side of yourself on your social media. I've seen your page, your fashion, your sneakers. You look like you have sneakers for every outfit. And it seems like through doing the things that you love and posting some of that to social media, you're getting opportunity to do more of the things that you love. Which is really awesome because a lot of young athletes don't take pride or take care of their social media and have all types of things that they wouldn't necessarily be proud of on there. And so you really cultivated a space where you get to see you get to see Ida and who she is, and that's bringing opportunities to do more of what you love. So I think that's absolutely awesome.
Yeah, I appreciate it.
Yeah, so two competing realities, right? Athletics and military are so different in reality, right? They're different goals, different outcomes, different plans, different strategies, but there's pressure when you come to both of those, right? How are those pressures similar and how are they different?
With basketball, like with me, I hate to disappoint people. Like, if you sign me, you know you're going to get the best out of me every day in practice, in the games. And I'm the kind of person, if I don't play good, I feel like my team is going to lose, which I already put pressure on myself, which I shouldn't because it's a team sport. But the pressure is to perform every game because people are so quick, especially people who do not understand basketball. If you have a bad game, it's always negative. Nothing's positive. People are not going to have good days every day. You're going to play good, you're going to play bad, and you're going to get the blame if the team loses. So this is one thing in basketball I was pressured into, like having to compete and play good every game, because if you don't play good and you lose, it's your fault. And with the military, it's like people's lives are depending on you, basically. So you have to follow orders, which is kind of different than basketball, because in basketball, I'm on the court, I'm the one who control the game. But in the military, I have people higher ranked than me, so I have to follow everything they say or they ask me to do, regardless if I agree with it or not. So, but either way, you have to be prepared mentally and physically for both. And
Yeah, I can see a lot of ways where both were they were informing each other. Basketball was informing military, military informing basketball, because while you're on the court, right, you still have to listen to your coach. You have to have the structure and discipline of practice, training, kind of putting that in. And so it sounds like there are similarities between the two of them. One of the biggest ones that it sounds like you've cultivated is leadership. And so what does leadership look like for you now in your life because of that background?
I took a break from basketball this summer just because I had a hand surgery and I was mentally in a not a great place, just because I had switched so many teams last year and I just needed a break. So I took this time to come back home. I say Midland is home too now. And I'm doing different things, like things that I didn't expect to do before. And my leadership and my not aggressiveness, but I've been around so many people with different cultures, and it helped me. And I've always been a leader. It helped me take charge, or it helped me move quicker in life. And I was able to implement that in my coaching job, in my communication director job, even working at my sister's clinic, who's a doctor. So me being a leader, it helps people trust you. It helps people listen to you and believe in you. And that significantly helped me out a lot, honestly.
So being able to pour into others has been something that's helped you in the absence of basketball as you've taken this time off. And I imagine with the diversity of experiences internationally, nationally, and everything else, you've dealt with a lot of different people, which probably informs how you show up as a leader, right? It gives you a little bit more bandwidth to deal with differences. And even sounds like even when you came over, you had some differences and you were accepted. And so that's a really awesome way to look at things, and that diversity of experience is important. It helps to shape you. And so as much as we have young folks playing basketball, football, soccer, everything else, that they need to practice a diversity of experiences, because through that, they're going to find some things that they love. They might not know that they loved it. And it's like, wow, I tried this for the summer and this was great. I enjoyed this. And so you're doing that. You're still evolving and finding yourself and getting connected with new sides of yourself that you didn't know. And so,
I didn't know. Because I
yeah.
never had that time to do anything else but play basketball and then be in the military. So now with this time off, you actually find yourself more, because you do have time off to think about other things you like and about other things you want to accomplish and do in life other than just be an athlete.
Absolutely. I think that's a fantastic message. And so you're here, you're on this platform, you're able to talk and share, and we have high school, college kids, we have parents, coaches. And so what would you say to really encourage them and help them prepare for those different stages that they're going to face? What would your advice be along the way to those folks?
First of all, like, just because I coach, I want to say to the parents, listen to your kids. This is the most important thing. Listen to your kids. Listen, what do they like to do? What do they not like to do? Don't force them into doing something. Don't put pressure on them. Because with like my middle school, like with my 6th and 7th grade, that's like one issue I had to deal with, is the parents more than high school. Because sometimes parents feel like all their kids should play. But everybody's at a different level. Your kid might be a great defender, so you put them on their best player, so you might need them in this game more or in that game more. So my biggest advice is for the parents to listen to their kids, and for the kids to keep working hard. transitioning from high school to college, it's going to be difficult. You're going to deal with so many different coaches. From your coach might be from Europe, from a different country with a different accent. You might not understand what he's saying, but there's always room to learn something from somebody. This is what I went through. I learned something. Maybe I learned something from a different coach every year. I had a different coach. Sometimes I would have 3 different coaches in 1 year for one team only. So be open to learning new things, be welcoming to your teammates, work hard, because somebody is just working just as hard as you are. You might think you're the only one working hard, but no, it's not going to be an easy process. You have coaches, presidents, fans, school, a lot of things to deal with. It's going to be a lot of pressure, but that's going to make you stronger. And always believe in yourself and do it for you, not for the people around you.
Because it can be tough. I mean, especially now in the era of NIL, where you have parents that are pushing their kids because, ooh, there's money over there, and so I can get that, and so they have to love it, and that's what I would say to parents. Your kids have to love it, right? If they're not loving it, then maybe that's not going to be for them. And unfortunately, you can see even in pro leagues, even the NBA, there's players that are in the NBA that don't love the game, and you see it and night in and night out, and you would want for your children, your kids, your players to be doing something that they love. And at some point in time, it may not be basketball, it may be something else. So how do I prepare for that? I had a coach on, and he was talking about his player. He was recruited to play basketball, and he fell in love with rowing and left basketball. And everybody was like, how did you leave to go do crew from basketball? But if he loved crew and he ended up going to a great school and rowing there and really enjoyed it, like, that's what you would want. You would want them to love it. And it's tough because there's been a huge investment. There was an investment in your parents coming over here. And it can be tough for some parents when your kid's like, hey, I don't want to do this anymore. And it's like, yeah, but we've invested so much. But at the end of the day, I would love for my kids to be doing something they love, even if it's not the sport that we've poured a lot of time and energy.
They might not go pro, but at least it will develop their character. They will learn a lot from playing sports with a team or even individuals. So parents have to accept that, honestly, and be supportive regardless what their kid decide to do.
Yeah, and I think the stat is something like 90% of all CEOs of companies played a team sport growing up. There's something really great and beautiful about the development that you can get from playing a team sport. That doesn't mean you have to play at college. That doesn't mean that you have to go pro or that you're going to make it pro, but there is a development that comes throughout that process. There's ways that basketball developed you to be the person that you are today. Even if you stop playing, you're going to be able to take that with you. And I think that's the awesome part of the game, is that the game gives back to you. Even if you don't get to where you want to be or where you think you want to be, the game is still going to give you something. If you love it, you play it the right way, and you invest the time and energy to do that. And so I think that's awesome.
Amazing. True.
Yeah. And so kind of so you're coaching now, and you said 6th and 7th graders. So there are probably a lot of things that you should not be seeing in 6th and 7th grade that you were seeing in 6th and 7th grade. And so as a coach, what makes you cringe these days about what you're seeing from young basketball players?
Honestly, my team was very disciplined. And I think because most of them play other sports, like now volleyball is huge in the States. So all my basketball players, they do track, they do volleyball, they do cheerleading. And I enjoyed coaching them so much that I cannot wait till next year.
Right.
And they became like my little babies. Like I had to take care of them. If I see them cry, it's like I want to cry. But I was very lucky to be surrounded by great kids that they really were happy to see each other play. They were happy to see each other succeed. They didn't care who played more. They just wanted to win. And I think also that has to do with the coach, because so many of them, their parents would come up to me and be like, my kid wanted to quit before. They don't want to play basketball, but they love you and they never want you to leave. So please, can you come back next year? Yeah. So I think having like this good role model around you, it helps you fall in love with the sports, or at least it helped me make this kid disciplined. If, for example, sometimes I would have a kid in practice that is not focused, I didn't have to say anything. Her teammate would be like, lock in. So, and that comes with trust and respect as well, I think.
We to give you credit, coach, because you probably
Thank you.
brought some discipline. You probably brought some structure. You built the culture that kids love. And I think that can be missing from coaching when the goal is just to win the games and get the outcome that you want on the scoreboard. When what you're doing is you're setting a foundation and helping to build and cultivate these athletes for life. So we talked about the military, we talked about leading a team, and you brought some of that leadership to the point where, and I think that's a lot of what leadership is, right? Leadership isn't I have to do everything, I have to build everything. Leadership is I can develop a culture that brings some of these things to bear so that I'm not the one that has to do discipline. The team, the culture is instilling that discipline and bringing that to the table. And I think that's awesome. So don't be humble now. We want to make sure you get your flowers and your shine because it
Thank
sounds like you're
you.
doing exactly what you're supposed to be doing as a coach. And it's hard, right? I've coached sixth and seventh graders. That is a challenging age group to coach, and you're doing a great job with it. Even the parents are able to see that. So that's awesome job
Thank you.
to
Appreciate
you. And so, what would you really encourage other coaches, right? How would you encourage other coaches that are maybe struggling with some of these changes that they're seeing with the NIL and that focus on winning and some of what you're seeing? And I'm sure you've seen your fair share of bad coaches. So, let's say you have a young coach that's coming up in the game. What would you encourage for that coach?
Keep learning more about the game. I was talking to my sister today and I told her I want to get better. I want to go to a basketball skill camp, like maybe USA or Phil, and just to get better. Keep learning, keep getting better because we have to keep evolving. The game is changing. Now you see everybody play European style basketball. Nobody has like a really big man. Even in the NBA, maybe the Nuggets are the only team that does. Don't give up, just keep learning because that's the only way you're going to grow and you're going to be able to deal with the things that are going to come your way.
And that's what you're doing. You're still
Yes.
learning. You're still learning yourself. You're still learning the game of basketball. You're learning the changes. And so I think that's awesome because if we don't adapt, then we find ourselves struggling a lot. And so I think that's really cool that you're still growing on that pathway of learning. And so kind of as we wrap up, any kind of final thoughts, things that you want to share, things that you want to add to this conversation about sports, athletes, pressure, identity, mental wellness, any last thoughts that you want to be able to share?
I just want to say enjoy the process. You're going to grow so much as a person and make sure you always share your knowledge with other people. Like, don't hold it to yourself because sometimes we could be selfish. We want to be the best one. We want to do this. But sharing knowledge is actually great because the same way you're sharing your knowledge with somebody else can share it with you. And you're gonna learn something new every day. Like till now, I've been playing basketball for 20 years, and every day I learn something new about basketball that I didn't know. So be open to meeting new people, to new experiences, and don't be afraid to take a challenge. Like take it. You never know what doors are gonna open for you, and always keep your parents first. Like I wish I had that more, where anything I had to go through, I would share it with my parents instead of with somebody else, because they're the ones who care about you and the most and want to see you succeed.
No, absolutely. I think that's awesome. Well, Ida, thank you so much for your time today
Thank you.
and joining the
Appreciate it.
podcast episode. We really appreciate it.
Thank you. I had so much fun, and this is my first podcast in the States. So
Nice,
I'm
nice,
excited
nice.
about it.
Some takeaways for athletes. You're going to have to figure things out sometimes without a roadmap. Ida didn't have a mentor guiding every step. Growth came through navigating uncertainty. Discipline can carry you, but it's not everything. She pushed through military and basketball at the same time, but even she needed breaks later. Basketball or sports is not your only identity. Even after 20 years, she's still discovering who she is beyond the game. Pressure is part of the journey, but don't let it define you. Performing every game, expectations, criticism, that's real, but it's not who you are. Find your outlet. For her, it was basketball, prayer, writing, travel. You need something that helps you release. Do it for you, not your parents, not for money, not for expectations. For parents, listen to your kids. Really listen. She emphasized this directly. Most problems start when kids feel unheard. Don't force the path. Just because there's investment doesn't mean it's the right fit.
Support is better than pressure. Kids perform better when they feel supported, not controlled. Let them struggle. Growth comes from figuring things out, not having everything solved for them. Your role is long-term, not transactional. This isn't about scholarships or money. It's about development. For coaches, you are developing people, not just players. Her coaching impact showed up in how her players responded to each other, not just to her. Culture is better than control. When teammates are holding each other accountable, you've built something real. Keep learning. She said it clearly. If you're not evolving, you're falling behind. Relationships matter more than systems. Players stayed because of how she made them feel, not just what she taught them. You set the emotional tone. Your presence, your leadership, your energy is shaping everything. Before we conclude, some closing thoughts. What stands out about this conversation is not just Aida's journey. It's about what she had to carry along the way. Moving across the world at a young age, chasing a dream without a clear roadmap, balancing professional basketball and military service at the same time. That's not just discipline. That's pressure. That's isolation at times. That's figuring it out in real time. And what she said that really hits is this. Even after 20 years of playing, she's still discovering who she is beyond the game. Think about that. Because so many athletes are told, this is who you are, this is your path, this is your identity. But what happens when the game changes? When the role changes? When the season of life shifts? That's where a lot of athletes struggle. And that's why this conversation matters. Because Aida showed us this. You can be disciplined, you can be tough, you can push through, but at some point, you'll have to learn how to take care of yourself. You have to learn how to evolve, adapt, and rediscover who you are beyond what you do. So for athletes, stay locked in, but don't lose yourself in the process. For parents, listen more than you push, because sometimes pressure is coming from the wrong place. And for coaches, you're not just building players, you're shaping lives. And I'll leave you with this. The game will give you a lot, but only if you allow it to develop you and not define you. At CLSI, we talk about closing the resilience gap, the space between what athletes expect to carry and what they're actually supported through. Thank you for joining this episode of Beyond the Game, where mental wellness competes.
Make sure to follow CLSI on Instagram and TikTok at clsi.life. Share this episode. Engage with the movement. Together, we can close the resilience gap.